Well, guys, we saw a very, very good look at Skyrim on the Switch last night. They showed a bunch of new features, some other really cool stuff, but there was also a lot of questions right now about how this game is going to be running on the Switch. Specifically, frame rate seems to be a question going around right now, and some other stuff. Let's really just talk about very briefly what happened last night. So last night we saw a bunch of stuff with the Switch. It was a pretty quick trailer. It was like 1.5 minutes or something like that. It's very, very brief, but they showed off a number of things. They showed off motion controls. They did show some new footage. I still think that footage was probably being run on a PC and just overlaid onto the Switch just for time's sake, make it look good and everything. Obviously, you're not going to pick up the portable Switch that easily on a camera, so it's definitely overlaid. We don't know 100% how it really runs on the Switch yet because there's nothing out there for it, as far as I can tell. Until people this week maybe start showing it on the show floor, if it is playable there, we won't know 100% how it's actually playing. This is kind of the same issue we ran into with FIFA on the Switch when that PR press statement went out, for example, and it had an overlay of a really bad-looking FIFA game on the Switch, but it was pretty clear that was just a stock image put over it. This is probably stock footage that they had kind of placed over the Switch in the video. But real quick, they did show motion controls, and while I'm sure some people will play around with motion controls, it's not going to be like the main thing that you're going to be doing. You're going to use motion controls for 15, 20 minutes, and then you'll put the Joy-Cons back on the thing and start playing, obviously. I don't think anyone's going to play all the way through Skyrim, although I'm sure some people will just to do it. Not with motion controls. Keep in mind, you got to have the system down on something to use motion controls, and the Switch is used, I'd say, at least 50 to 60% of the time when you're holding it moving around. A lot of people do tabletop mode. I still think, though, it's going to be played mostly in the handheld mode or on your TV with a Pro Controller, for example. Now, there are some questions. Is this a special edition of Skyrim? Technically, by the definition, it's not, because it does not appear to have mod support at all. In fact, I think that's the big reason why they added the Hylian shield and the Master Sword, and I assume like the tunic and everything that they showed off there. Although a lot of this stuff has already been available in the PC version through mods and people just making it in user creation, I think they added that stuff because there is definitely no mod support from what we could tell. If you look on their page that talks about everything, it specifically says get the PS4, Xbox One, or PC version for the special edition mod support, and that's really what makes the special edition kind of the special edition. They added mod support to consoles. That was like the big thing. Now, they do have extra graphical upgrades and stuff, and I do think the Switch is going to have a better looking Skyrim than for example, the ones on 360 or PS3. And I don't think it's going to be 60 frames per second. Even if it's running vanilla Skyrim, there are some issues with something like Skyrim as it gets higher frame rate, especially when it gets above 60. It can do some very weird, wonky things. It's weird how their engine kind of interacts with frame rate, but it doesn't need to be 60 frames. In fact, again, the special edition version on the PS4 and Xbox One when it came out was just 30 frames per second. So I don't know how the Switch would get 60. I think a lot of people just saw like the video was shown in like 60 frames and they just started thinking, oh, the Switch 60 frames. Really, if it's going to probably hover around 30 most times pretty much. And that's still very impressive, because if you consider where we were back when it first came out on, say, the 360, the PS3, and of course it came out on the PC. When we saw it on the 360, for example, it was like, it would run at like 20 frames per second if you're lucky on average. And now we are to a point where you can take Skyrim with you on the go and play it on a handheld that runs off of a battery that will probably get, I would say, with Skyrim running, probably Zelda-like time, so like 3 hours or so. That's impressive. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Switch, Nintendo, or anything. You have to kind of step back for a minute and just realize, wow, a game like Skyrim can now be played on the go, portably. That is impressive. Now, it does have amiibo support, so you use your amiibo to get the Master Sword, the Hylian shield. I'm sure they'll have their own stats, effects, and everything. But then they also showed us that you will get all of the DLC that they have talked about before. Dawnguard, Hearthfire, and Dragonborn are all included in the Switch version. So this is going to be more like the Skyrim kind of Legendary Edition that came out after the original Skyrim came out, with, I assume, added visual options that will be kind of on by default, and then amiibo support and motion controls, and the fact that it's portable. It sounds like this is a great version of Skyrim. Whether maybe you missed out on the whole Skyrim craze, you haven't tried it yet, but you picked up a Switch and you're like, that'd be fun to play on the go. This looks like the game for you if you want to jump into Skyrim. The weird thing here is we didn't get a solid release date from what I can tell right now. Nothing's on Nintendo's site, nothing's on Bethesda's site officially, and it's still supposed to come out this fall. And again, we haven't seen anything actually run on the Switch, so I'm a little concerned about some of those aspects where we don't know when it's coming out. We haven't actually seen the Switch running the game technically, but Maybe we'll get some footage throughout E3. Maybe the date comes out at some point during this week. But nothing yet. Right now, just keep in mind, this is probably the best version of Skyrim portably. I don't think the GPD Win is not going to play Skyrim like this. The Smoxy, not going to play Skyrim like this. A laptop will play it okay, but for about an hour until that battery dies. So really, this is obviously the best way to play it on the go. I probably won't get it because I've owned Skyrim like 3 different ways right now, and I don't think I'm going to jump back into it. But again, if you've never played it or you want to revisit it on the go, this looks like it. I would just keep an eye out for any other trailers, release dates, anything like that. Footage. Keep an eye out for direct feed footage. That's what you really want, so we can see what this game actually looks like on the Switch, as opposed to them probably giving us computer renderings and stuff on the go. Maybe you don't think it's a computer render, but keep in mind, even at the Microsoft conference, they were showing us games like Metro running on a PC, and they were kind of pretending it was running on an Xbox One X. So for time's sake, in their case, they don't want to show frame drops or anything. They may have just rendered it on a PC and just put it out there for us to see, just for promotional material. So, you know what? That's the way it goes. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.